You are now watching
The Creeping Lemur, the Motel Marsupial, Mr. 3K in the bank. After that controversy with his ex-girlfriend, people have called this jit many names. There's probably a million different hypocrisies or red flags that are much more evident after everything came out about him, really. But today, with you fellas, what I want to talk about here is the two-faced nature the guy had when it came to all the people surrounding him that were able to help push his career to where it was just before his downfall. And when it came to surrounding himself with other creators who I'm sure thought they were like-minded at the time, Lemur would do just that. So at one point, he'd come into contact and seemingly befriend people like Major Chilla, Animated Morty, and Mayor Menace. People with great channels, people who've built up these real positive communities around themselves despite being united against disliking lolcows. So when it came to continuing the growth of his channel, it would be a no-brainer to begin making content with these people. Whether or not these collabs began as solely business ventures to help one another boost their channels up, they did seemingly become friends or at least respected one another.
People who I respect. These are people in my field who I've had conversations with.
But that would only be what Lemur wanted to portray to anyone outside looking in. That's what he'd lead these content creators who thought they had a respectable guy to bounce ideas off of or better their content with to believe. That's when we'd come to find out that was 100% not the case when it came to their friendship, with all these screenshots during the X controversy that painted Lemur as the incredibly two-faced, fake, awful friend that he is. I mean, he'd really make it seem like he just hated them. The way he'd talk shit about the fact Chilla had asked to stream together, as if that wasn't a perfectly normal thing for the two to do at the time. Something with their dynamic did nothing but further build the two's communities and content. Not only whining about something, again, completely within the norm, but going after his age and claiming he's got nothing going on. Putting himself up on this pedestal of being so much better and more important than his fellow creator. For what? Rhetoric he was spinning that just had no basis in reality, really, considering all he wanted to do that day was get drunk and goon to the girlfriend he was destined to beat. He'd go on about how it's finals week and he's got bigger and more important things that are on his mind that'll just conflict with this live stream they could be doing. Just again, with this whole idea that his life has so much more going on in it, he's so much better, and saying that Chilla was being gay about it too. Clearly not portraying his frustrations in the same way when declining the invite. He'd show us his true two-faced nature of this, because Chilla would be none the wiser to this huge frustration that he had caused the almighty best YouTuber of all time, Lemur. This wouldn't be the only time he'd be dishonest with Chilla, a fella who thought he had a friend in the creep, because even when they first met, he would lie about his height and weight to the guy. And like, why do that, Lemur? I feel like owning the fact you were 5'8" and 250 pounds would have been fine, but granted, Lemur really loved, harping on how obese Nova and Tofia were, so maybe he was scared to unveil to him just how hypocritical he was being when they first met. I don't know. But Lemur wasn't also just magically shedding 40 pounds. The fellow would apparently tell him he was 6'1", too. Pretty big leap to where the big man was truly sitting. The biggest thing I can't believe he bashed him for was his drinking, though. Sitting up on this huge high horse judging the guy for drinking was like, okay dude, we get it. For a long time, you were seemingly very against drinking. But it's really insane to me that he'd bash Chilla for this, sitting up on his high horse yet again, judging someone for the drinking, because he's so much better than them, sitting there ripping his cart over and over again in his dirty ass room. Lemur couldn't even stick to his own virtue he apparently had of his opinion on drinking. With, of course, the fact he bought alcohol for someone underage, encouraging a bad habit they had of drinking a lot, but getting so plastered to the point of yakking and being near, if not blackout drunk, multiple times on multiple days with this girl. I seriously doubt any of Chilla's drinking got so bad that he began making decisions Lemur would have made sober. In the drinking, at the very least, it was never in a musty-ass motel with someone not old enough to drink ending up in SA allegations online. I can imagine that it only continued on to be this way with all the other content creators he would interact with, so I feel terrible for Morty and Menace both. And I matter Morty even. A guy who, according to Lemur, would keep himself a little more distant from the group chat, would of course catch some strays in this whole leak, concluding Lemur's a god-awful two-faced friend. Where Morty would catch slacks for the things he would say in the group chat, where ultimately Lemur was just whining about and making fun of absolute nothing burgers. Either way, point is, despite the fact Morty was even less forthcoming with information on himself to Lemur, he couldn't hide from the two-faced marsupial. Yet another person who was supposed to be friends with, or at least acquaintances with, Gilberto. But why would he care? He had to throw bro right under the bus to make himself feel even more important in front of some girl. Not even Mayor Menace could catch a break here, in a different way, as I can't find any instances of him being caught talking shit, but I can only imagine, given the clear history here with Lemur, what happened behind closed doors. But those two would collab here and there, and I can only assume Menace was under the impression they had an alright friendship or at least fairly acquainted with one another, similar to the others. And to open his phone up one day and see the awful things Lemur had been getting up to in his free time must have been stomach churning. Associating yourself with someone like Lemur could have for sure had people questioning whether or not you yourself are similar, because you know what they say, you are the company that you keep. So the others being bigger channels and Menace being smaller than now, just being associated with the creep could have been a death sentence for the channel. Thankfully, that's not the case because Homie makes great content, and in fact, bro used this terrible moment to further his own career, and Homie completely earned that. Just an all-around terrible thing for these creators to have to experience. Not only would someone they trusted and I'm assuming they respected to some degree would be found out to have been talking a whole lot of shit on them, but to have it come out someone they associated themselves with to be such an awful creep, it's terrible. Just to remind everyone and really drive home this fact, Lemur was a terrible friend, we have to remember, he dropped 2 response videos. The first one is where he apologized in air quotes and deflected only about the Lily situation, completely ignoring elephant in the room of betraying most of his friends. It's not even the fact that they weren't mentioned in the first video, because it did take him 8 minutes to finally mention the shit that came out about him shit talking his friends. But he couldn't be bothered to say a quick "I'm sorry." I mean, he didn't completely forget about them. Maybe he should have apologized for all the shit he said, was a complete afterthought. And it wasn't until he was backed into a corner and forced to, basically, when people started calling him out on that he finally did. We can only hope for the fellas that moving forward they don't have to deal with any more lemurs and collab with normal people, if they even collab with anyone else at all after what Lemur did. The creators Lemur collaborated with and talked with on the regular wouldn't be the only people to catch some flack from Mr. 6'1", 210 pounds either. His audience would catch them too, completely forgetting the fact that these same people were essentially a main source of income for him. He had this outward-facing facade of respecting and being thankful for his audience, you know, but that would be all an act. He never once cared for any of the people who liked to watch his content. He could care less about them actually, because he would go on these long-winded tangents, throw whatever clip he wanted to push down the audience's throat because he believed he could, just because he thought whatever he shoved into the void for his audience, they'd eat right up. Well, no, fortunately, that couldn't be further from the truth, because these idiots would be some of the people who were able to rub it into Lemur's face the most when it came to his downfall. One of the things talked about most now regarding Lemur and his legacy is how fast his subscriber count fell. Just how fast people caught wind of everything this creep got up to in his free time, all the things he said about his friends, and all the things he did or said to that girl. That same audience that the Lemur had zero respect for would be the ones to highlight the most just how far he had fallen. Just to put into perspective how little he cared for these people, how ungrateful he was that these people took the time out of their day in order to watch his video, we have some clips.
Now, I guess bro has like a whole ass song, and I kind of want to play it for you guys. Like, I kind of want to sit here and force you guys to listen to this dude's original song, because it's like, why the fuck not? I have the power to. Like, I can just, you know, throw the video in there and you guys are forced to listen to it.
Now, this clip might seem like a joke, you know, you might say to yourself, Grubba, you might be reaching a little here, but when you put this little joke he made into perspective, it may have been a little Freudian slip here. Claiming, why don't I just show you guys this awful clip because I can, because I have the power to. It's that word power that really got me when I was watching this shit back. Because in the back of his head, in the back of his mind, maybe this wasn't even a direct thought he had, but he believed he had the power to show his audience whatever he wanted because they would eat it up no matter what. Which again, I've stated this, these people were literally the reason why Homie could afford what he could, the reason why he could put food down at the Cardona table. They were the reason why he could afford his car and help pay for his family's house and slam Big Macs like no tomorrow. So wouldn't you be grateful that you get to just sit around, eat however much McDonald's you want and get paid to do it while you make these YouTube videos that it seems like you really enjoyed making? But no, that doesn't matter. I mean, I try to make a point to reply to as many people as I can in the comment section because, you know, you gotta thank the viewers and you gotta be grateful in this position. You know, being able to be monetized on YouTube and knowing just how many people will come and take 5 minutes out of their day to watch what you have to say about some idiots on the internet. Like, these people could be doing anything, but they took the time out of their day to watch your shit. The ungratefulness of it all just really gets me. He really would just shove whatever clip to pad the video time if it wasn't yapping away on unrelated tangents or circling around the same point over and over. And that was clear as day in this video.
Bro.
This part of the live stream was boring as fuck. Now the next part definitely kicks up when she starts to dry bag and, you know, she starts to do her scamming shit, right? That's definitely something worth watching. But I just wanted to show you guys this part to show you how fucking boring Tofiachu is. She really thinks that she's gonna make a career off of live streaming, and all she does is sit there and watch other people. It's ridiculous.
Just to really highlight how heavy his video padding was, that was a nearly 4-minute clip in a 20-minute video, so nearly a quarter of it was a boring live stream that Lemur didn't even think was worth the watch. All he had to say here was Big Toph was putting out a boring stream, but instead he clipped X amount of time out of a useless nothing burger stream and thought to himself, how much time can the great Gilberto waste with this clip? Subtly send a fuck you to the viewers by pointing out the most useless clip he didn't need to show you afterwards. Now, I was talking mostly behind the scenes with everything, but one thing not many people noticed earlier on, that even I, watching Lemur back while I was gaming, something I didn't even really notice, was that he had such an incredibly hard time admitting he was wrong ever. A huge thing that typically lolcows get called out for often, where he would get called out on something by his fans and he'd deflect, followed by doubling down. He did it all the time too, and just without fail. In the process, shrugging off any attempt by fans in some cases, just trying to help bro out by clarifying things in comments. I mean, how hard is it to just pin a comment that clarified something you missed or was wrong on in a video? Just everywhere he could, it was so glaringly obvious how he truly felt about any viewers. Hindsight is 2020 though, fellas. I've had enough, at least for today though, yapping about big old Gilberto. So if you liked what you saw here, leave a little like for a grub, and subscribe to see more shit just like it. Speaking of Gilberto, real quick, don't forget we do have this wonderful emote of the creeping creamer getting freaky, so don't forget to use that if you've been gifted a membership in a live. And I will be going live at some point this weekend too, fellas, so be on the lookout. Anywho, thank you so much for making it to the end. Later, Grubbas.